guys, welcome back to my channel, Bedtime True Crime with Ashley Nicole. I am in a different location in my house. I'm hoping to set up some scenery back here and kind of have my robes from previous episodes up here. I'm planning to do something with the background. So I have been away for a little bit longer than usual just because I have been sick, and I hope that I don't sound stuffy, but yes, so the last couple weeks I have been really stuffy, really sick, and just, yeah. And in between that, my kids have been sick, so yeah. But today's story is a story that I wanted to tell a while ago before I even thought about doing a true crime channel. Actually, I think it was like one of the first cases that I thought, oh my gosh, I want to tell that story on a true crime channel. So, today I'm excited to tell that story. Well, I don't want to say excited, but I'm eager to tell you guys that story just because I was able to actually dig a little deeper. So, I have heard this story told on different platforms, and all of those platforms are going to they're basically telling you what I will be telling you in the beginning, and how the story starts, and like what was broadcasted out there to media. But after digging a little bit deeper, I was able to find some other things about the story that I am excited to tell you guys. So please listen to the end so that you can hear probably a lot of answers to the questions that you will have as I tell the story, because I had those same exact questions. I felt those same exact ways. So when I was able to find what I found, I was very excited because I feel like it does give a lot of insight to how everything played out. And again, it answers all those questions that come up as you listen to the story. On July 14th, 1991, Dearborn Heights Police Department received a phone call from a man stating, "I stabbed her. She's in the kitchen." Once on the scene, they are met by this man who directs them to the kitchen, and as police proceed to the kitchen, they see the seemingly lifeless body of Tanya Green, who is also 6 months pregnant. The person that had called them and the man that is there is Tanya Green's husband, Gregory Green. Gregory has stabbed Tanya multiple times with a steak knife. He has left wounds in her face, her neck, her chest, and back. She is rushed to the hospital, and of course, as you could assume, he has been arrested. Once at the hospital, she is pronounced dead, and so is their unborn child. Initially, Gregory pled no contest using the insanity defense. However, it was found that he was competent enough and that he knew exactly what he was doing. And in a trial in 1992, he was sentenced to second-degree murder and sentenced to 15 to 25 years in prison. So, during his time in prison, it is said that he only had one ticket, which to my understanding is a disciplinary infraction. This is similar to like a write-up. At my daughter's school, they have a system where they use merits and demerits. So you get a demerit if you are being disrespectful to staff, lingering in the hallways, etc. And so that's the equivalent of you getting in trouble, write up, etc. So I'm assuming that this is the same thing with the ticket. And Gregory received this ticket because him and another inmate got into an altercation in the television room. Outside of that one incident where he received that ticket, it was said that Gregory was a model inmate. He completed several cognitive programs, and according to his pastor and the letters that he wrote on Gregory's behalf, he was working on himself. In 2005, that pastor whose name is Pastor Fred Harris, pushed for Gregory's release, writing a letter to the parole board, and I'm going to read it to you, or read part of it to you. It says, Gregory and I were friends before this mishap, and he was incarcerated. I feel he paid for his unfortunate lack of self-control and the damage he has caused as much as possible, and is sorry. This will not restore the lives that were taken. He will carry that with him for the rest of his life. And then in 2006, he wrote, I've noticed a great deal of growth, and his understanding has matured quite a bit as well as his processing skills. If he was to be released, we would be welcoming as a part of the community, and whatever we could do to help him adjust, we would. However, even with those letters from the pastor, Gregory was still ultimately denied parole 4 times, twice in 2004 and twice in 2006. So, my question really was, when I was reading this, is really, what was the pastor seeing in Gregory that the parole board wasn't? And the parole board definitely stated that he never showed remorse. He never showed empathy for Tanya or their unborn child and what he had done to them. So that brings me to 2008, where he is granted parole. Now, by 2008, he had been in prison for 16 years at the time. So remember, he was sentenced to 15 to 25 years. So I guess you could say he did serve majority of his time. But I wonder if the parole board did see some change in him, because even with him being released on parole, they never said, like, they never came back to, and now he's showing empathy, now he's remorseful, anything like that. His eligibility report stated that he was respectful to staff, had good block reports, and good work history. And okay, but he's in prison for something that he did, so he should be making amends, being remorseful, showing empathy, all of those things that they denied him for those other 4 times that were not mentioned or reevaluated in 2008. So I'm confused by that. But again, I don't know how the parole board works. I don't know, like, what they have to do. So in 2008, Gregory was released from prison. 2 years following his release, in 2010, he married a woman by the name of Faith Harris. They ended up having 2 little girls together, Kaylee and Coy, bringing their family to a family of 6, as Faith had 2 children from a previous relationship, Chadney and Kara. Faith Harris, the daughter of Pastor Fred Harris, who had been writing the letters for Gregory while he was in prison. For all accounts purposes, neighbors had nothing negative to say about the family. They were a cute little suburban family. However, as we do know, in most cases, what the public sees and what is really happening is 2 different things. And because we are here today and I am telling you this story, we know that there is a lot more beneath the surface. In 2013, just 3 years after they were married, Faith had filed for a restraining order against Gregory. On the application, she stated, that they would be filing for divorce and that he is being belligerent, kicking things, threatening me, and saying if I don't leave, things are going to get ugly. He jumped at me like he was going to attack. This went on for hours. It was even said that she and the one of the girls were sleeping on a couch, and he just came and kicked the couch. Um, so at this point, it seems like things are getting very bad. And again, I do have a little bit more insight now that when I researched a little bit more, I have more insight to exactly what was going on at this time, but we will discuss that later. So, anyways, her request for the restraining order was denied based on there not being a sufficient amount of evidence. This kind of bothers me because if you don't feel safe in your home or you don't feel safe around someone, then you should at least be able to get a temporary restraining order. And again, I will come back to that. However, later in 2013, she did apply for divorce, but the paperwork did not go through. Meaning she probably, and I'm not victim blaming or anything here, but usually if you file for a divorce, they give you a court date. She probably did not go to the court date, and again, we'll talk about it again later. I can't imagine what life was like for Faith and her family following all of these failed attempts at help. However, coming and speaking from my own domestic violence situation, I do feel at times, especially with small children, that it's very difficult to leave at times just because you have these small kids and they are more than likely attached to their dad, and you just want this to work for them. So, to some degree, I get it in the fear of not wanting to fail. You know? Statistics actually show that it takes a woman 7 times to leave an abusive partner. Again, living through my own situation, I can definitely say I am definitely part of that statistic. Having children and being married to an abuser, narcissist, and deciding to leave is very scary. You feel alone. You feel that people will use the time together as a source of victim blaming. You've been with him this long, like it can't be that bad, or you guys have this many kids, so like it can't be that bad, things like that. And that is so far from the reality. Or like, you've been with him so long, so you can't be scared. Like, that doesn't even make sense if you think about it, because definitely you're scared of someone, so you don't want to upset them by leaving them. So saying like, oh, you've been with them so long, so you can't be scared of them, doesn't make sense. But of course, if you have never lived through a situation like that, you would never even understand. So you are speaking about something that you never lived through, and it's very unfair to people that have had to live through those situations because you don't know what you're talking about. Even to say, I would never be with someone that's talked to me like that, or I would never be with someone that would do something like that to me. I don't think anybody goes into life thinking, oh, I want to be abused verbally, physically, emotionally. No one wants that. That's not on anyone's checklist. So when people say, like, I would never, no one ever wants to. It happens, and it just happens over time. It's not a time for you to say, oh, I would never do that. You don't know what you would do when you love someone, when you are in love with someone, when someone has manipulated and shown you an entire different person than the person they are today, and now you have several kids with this person. It's just very very rude, I will say. Very rude for people to pass judgment on things that they never lived through or experienced. So, sorry for my rant, but yeah. So, anyways, we cannot say exactly why Faith did not go through with the divorce in 2013. However, in 2016, Faith filed for divorce again, this time citing that there was a breakdown in the marriage and there was no likelihood that the marriage could be preserved. Unfortunately, the filing of this divorce is ultimately what set the following events in motion. On September 21st, 2016, at about 1:16 a.m., police receive a phone call from a man stating that he just murdered his family. This man we now know is Gregory. He has just bound Faith with duct tape, brought her into the basement where he has shot her in the feet, and now he has called her two older children, Chadney and Kara, into the basement as well. He has called her two older children into the basement, Chadney and Kara. And again, remember, Faith has been shot in her feet, so she cannot move. So Kara and Chadney are brought into the basement where he then shoots them to death in front of their mother. He then takes a box cutter and proceeds to cut her from her ear to her mouth on both sides. And then he leaves the basement and he goes back and forth for a minute. Actually, I'm putting this in from the information that I found out later. But so he's going back and forth from the basement, and then he asks her if she wants to see Kaylee and Coy. She says yes. He then responds that that would be too much work. So he calls his sister and says something to the effect of, I killed them all. And she's asking to speak to Faith, and he will not let her. He hangs up with her and then calls the police, and that is where we are. So, the police arrive to 4400 Hip Street, where they take Kaylee, Coy, and Faith to Grace Hospital, where Kaylee and Coy were pronounced dead. It is so heartbreaking to me that Kaylee and Coy survived. And just so you guys know, he had did something with the exhaust pipe in the car so that it would pump carbon monoxide into the car, and then he put the girls into the car. So it is just amazing to me that they survived as long as they did. He pled guilty to 4 counts of second-degree murder. He did show slight emotion when he was talking about what he did to Kaylee and Coy. I'll try to include a clip of him discussing what he did. I really feel indifferent about the video and about him being in court and discussing and crying, just because I know how narcissists work. And I just feel like if he felt any emotion behind what he was doing, at any point he could have stopped it. At any point he wanted to hurt Faith, and this is the way that he did it, by taking all of her children but leaving her alive. There's not at one point where he did something to kill Faith. He wanted her to be tortured. He wanted her to see her kids be murdered in front of her. That is a sick individual Like, I just can't even. So to look at him discuss what he did to his own children and then he wants to cry about it. Just imagine what those little girls were thinking um, when their dad comes and picks them up out of bed at 12 in the morning. Like, they're not thinking that their dad is going to do something to kill them. And then you want to cry? No. So, anyways. I also feel like maybe when he was emotional about the girls, if maybe he was just reliving moments with them and times that he shared with them, or even the moments leading up to what he did. But I just don't think that his reaction was remorseful. I mean, twice now he has killed his family, essentially. I mean, the first time he killed his wife and his unborn child. This time he tortured his wife and killed four of their kids, two of which were his biological kids, and he killed them. I just don't think that he has any feeling, emotion. Um, Faith was able to speak at his sentencing, and I really want to include the clip here because to see her get up and speak and be able to say everything she said definitely shows that she's not a victim. Like, she is a survivor, and that he did not win. And I just hope that he hears her voice every single day in his head, because he deserves to be tormented for the rest of his life.
Faith Green.
Okay.
Good morning, Your Honor. I'm not happy. I'm not satisfied with the outcome. There's no punishment that fits the crime. Not even torture and death would be justice. Your justice will come when you burn in hell for all eternity for murdering 4 innocent children, all because you're insecure as a man. Plus the other 2 lives you took. You are a con artist, you are a monster, you are a devil in disguise. You are now forever exposed. I've thought over and over again what I would say, even though it doesn't even matter. First of all, I am not and did not and will not suffer like you intended for me to do. What you tried to do didn't work. I am and was a damn great mother to all of my children. I was their mother and father. I'm the one who took out the time with each and every one of them. I taught them how to do things as well as people in my family and friends. I taught Chadney how to treat a woman with respect, how to fill out a job application, mock interviews, how to pay bills, encouraging him to give his all in his schooling, producing movies, and his drawings. He was a great artist. He graduated from Specs Howard for digital media arts. He wanted to be a producer to make movies. I taught Kara to stay focused, aim high. I showed her how to drive, how a young lady is to carry herself in an orderly manner. Be all that you can be. Try out for everything that you're interested in doing. Pursuing higher education. We were filling out college applications. She wanted to be an OBGYN doctor. She was going to graduate this year from high school. I taught Coy to be open to new things like learning a new language, be confident in doing her schoolwork and in herself. She loved doing arts and crafts with me, letting her imagination run wild. She loved dressing up and putting on my high heels. She would make me laugh, looking at me over her glasses, like a little old lady. She loved ballet, cheerleading, and planting flowers with me. My Kaylee had the greatest memory. She loved singing. She loved to carry her purse, which was always filled with hand sanitizer and lip gloss. She loved getting her nails painted and sometimes doing it herself. She also loved ballet and cheerleading. She loved balloons and playing outside. I taught them to be giving, loving, and respectful, to help others, to volunteer. They were not selfish children. Coy and Kaylee were learning about kids less fortunate than themselves. I took them with me to purchase items for Christmas and explained to them what we were doing to make them happy. I always encouraged them and told them that they can do anything they put their minds to do. Those are the lies that you took. You tried to separate them from each other. They are siblings who loved each other and spent time with one another. Trying to split them up didn't work. They are together more than ever. Chadney and Kara are still watching over their little sisters, Coy and Kaylee, forever. I carried each one of them in my womb for 9 months and raised them. Nothing or no one, sure as hell, not you, can break me or break my bond with them. But while I stand up here trembling with fear, I put on my bravest face to be in the same room with the man who murdered all 4 of my children. 2 of them violently in front of me with a gun, Chadney and Kara. And he killed my other 2 babies, Coy and Kaylee, with a hose that ran from the tailpipe of his car to where they were innocently sleeping. As if that wasn't enough, let me tell you about some of the devastation that it has actually done to me and my family. My short-term memory is gone. Doctors tell me it's my brain protecting me from the memories of my children being shot in their heads right in front of me, while I was gagged, duct-taped, and zip-tied. Every time I find strength to get out of bed, as soon as I walk, I'm in extreme pain, sharp pain, from where he shot me in my foot. They don't know if I'll ever walk again without pain. Think about that for a second. Never being able to again to walk without pain. My doctors say I have post-traumatic stress disorder. That's where the migraines and nightmares come from. Sometimes I dream of the night all this happened and wake up screaming and sweating, thinking that I can save my children somehow. Then I realize that the nightmare is actually reality, and my children are really gone, and I try to find the strength to start my day somehow. Other times, there's just crazy nightmares that I wake up from in fear and try to understand them, but I'm told that they all link back to this horrific experience I have had. I can't think of the last time I really rested without medication. I can still feel the zip ties around my wrist, and it triggers horrible memories of that night. There's times I find myself drifting off into thought and then realize I'm not thinking of anything. I'm empty. Lost. I'm lost, not really knowing what to do with myself, just existing day to day. I miss my children so much that words will never be able to explain. All I ever wanted to be was a mother, a wife, have a happy family, raise my children to be productive members of society, and be happy. The reality I face now is this will never happen for me. Time will never heal this wound. I will always be empty. A part of me will always be missing. If the day ever comes when I do wake up, and it's not the first thing that I think about, when I look in the mirror, I will always be reminded by the scars he put on my face, cutting me from my ears to my chin with a razor blade box cutter. The pain on the left side of my face never goes away. He cut me so deep that it severed multiple nerves that may never heal correctly. I lost so much blood. I was in critical condition for days. I should have died. Some days I wish I would have. He has scarred me for life. My whole family is devastated emotionally by what has happened. But it has extremely been hard on my parents. They love their grandchildren with all their hearts. Most days, my mother has a hard time getting out of bed and has been in the hospital a few times, but my father is taking it the hardest. He's not the same person he once was. The stress has taken a toll on his health. 2 weeks ago, he was taken to the hospital because he had a stroke. I honestly don't know where to go from here. I'm numb. There's a hole in my heart and soul that can never be repaired. The loss to me is so big that I will never truly recover for the rest of my life. I will be forever in pain and heartbreak. This wound will never heal. This wound will never heal. I would like to thank the court and you, Your Honor, for the time you have allowed me to speak. I would like to thank the prosecutor's office and staff and all the police officers who helped in this case. In closing, I understand the recommendation of the sentence, but I would like to recommend, as a victim myself and the mother of all 4 murdered children, life in prison without the chance of parole. Thank you. Faith Green.
Thank you.
Second degree regarding Kaylee Green. How do you wish to plead?
Guilty, sir.
As to the charge of murder in the second degree as to Gregory Green, how do you wish to plead?
Guilty, sir.
As to the charge of murder in the second degree as to Kara Allen, how do you wish to plead?
Guilty.
As to murder in the second degree as to Chadri Allen, how do you wish to plead?
Guilty.
As to the charge of torture in count 5, sir, how do you wish to plead?
Guilty.
As to the charge of assault with intent to do great bodily harm less than a crime or murder as to Faith Green, sir, how do you wish to plead to that?
Guilty.
And as to the torture, it was as to Faith Green. It's just...
Yes, sir.
Okay. As to the charge of felony firearm, sir, in count 10, how do you wish to plead to that?
Guilty, sir.
Is that the defense counsel's understanding of the total agreement?
That is correct, yes.
Gregory was ultimately sentenced to 47 to 100 years, meaning he'd be 97 years before he could get out. What a complete monster. However, I did tell you guys that I dug and I did find more information. I know a couple other YouTubers have covered this story, and I just wanted to add something different. And I was able to find that Faith had wrote a book, and I'm just like so proud of her. So for overcoming, like, that is a lot. However, she did write a book, and some of the questions that I had, and I know, like I said, a lot of people would have the same questions, so I just wanted to speak on some of those things. Mainly, well, not mainly, but one of the things was like, how did she not know if her dad, the pastor that was writing a letter for Gregory while he was in prison, if her dad knew what he did, why did he not stop this situation, at least alarm her? Or even did she know? And in her book, she states that, like, one time in 1991, so remember, 1991 is the year that he brutally attacked and killed his first wife. But she said that she remembers one time in 1991 where her and him had, like, she's seen him at the church, but she did not talk to him. She just seen him and thought he was really cute and kind of had like a crush on him, but like after that she didn't see him at all. So I think that that's probably when he ended up going to prison. But when he came home and was like going back to the church, because the church that her dad runs or ran was really just to help rehabilitate people, or their doors were open to rehabilitating people, because her father had been through his own situation, so he was really big on being there for men or people in the community that needed help. So of course when he came home, he was around the church more, and then they started talking. Initially they were just like friends, but then he asked her out once and she said no. But then I think at some point he ended up calling her randomly for Christmas, like, what do Chadney and Kara want for Christmas? And then he got everything that they wanted, and so then she was like locked in. So that happened, and again, that was something that I really can say that I was like, if you know someone did something like that to their first wife, why would you put yourself in that situation? Why would you want to be with them? What is attractive about them? I know when I first heard the story, because, you know, you only get like a snippet of what really happened. I know that was something that I really thought about. So, that was one of the things. And then something else that I learned from her book is they had separated, following her filing for divorce or whatever. Like, they had separated in 2015, and they had been like living separately, not together at all. And in the beginning, his sister was like exchanging the kids like for them so that they wouldn't even be like communicating. And then eventually they started doing it. And then at some point they ended up going to like a parent teacher conference together and they just started to communicate better. And again, in reading her book, I found that one of the biggest things and biggest problems between her and Gregory is that he wasn't a good communicator. So things would happen and he just wouldn't communicate. And she just wanted him to tell her what was wrong. So again, now at this point, they're communicating better and he's being more open with her. And so she says in the book, one night they're at this parent teacher conference and she just can't stop looking at him and she's so proud of him. And then like that led to them just being more close. And then I think something was going on with her water at her apartment, and he ended up saying like it's getting closer to the colder months, so you might as well come home, meaning back to their family home. And so she's like, yeah, I should. And then that's when they got back together. So that would be leading up into 2016. Something else. Again, these are just little things that I read in a book that I found interesting that definitely speak to Gregory's character. So, according to Faith, he was over the moon about Coy. Like he was in love with being her dad. Like he just lit up about Coy. But when it came to Kaylee, he did not feel the same. He was very upset that she wasn't a boy. So a lot of times he would just ignore her presence completely. And I just thought that that was just so strange. Like, you know, we all have our, like, oh, I would like it to be a girl or I would like it to be a boy, but never to the degree of like, I don't want you, or, you know, like, I'm gonna disown you because you're not what I wanted. Like, I just don't understand that. Something else that he used to do is anytime that Kara, Faith's older daughter, would close the door, he would get so angry. And according to Faith, she wouldn't even be slamming the door. She would just be shutting her door. And he would get so mad to the point, one time he took her door handle off and Chadney had to call Faith. Like, what are you doing? Like, how insane. But again, this is in hindsight, 2020. He used to get in these moods where he would get upset with her, but wouldn't communicate why. Or he would just get upset, period, and wouldn't communicate why. Like, he would just be quiet, weirdly quiet. She said one time she asked him for, I think it was water, like, you know, the nursery water that you get when you make your kids formula. So she asked him to go get some, and like he had the biggest fit. It was for Kaylee, of course. So like I just said, he really did not like Kaylee. So she asked him to go get it, and he flipped out on her, and so she ended up getting it herself. Well, days later, he comes in the house with a gallon of water, and she's like, what am I going to do with that? Like, if I was waiting on you to get the water to feed the baby, then, yeah. So, I mean, it's just little things that you look back on and you're like, wow. And I guess, he would always like wake her up in the middle of the night. Like whenever he was having these spells of quietness or silence, he would then wake her up in the middle of the night and want to yell and scream about whatever he was mad about at that time. So he would go days without saying a word to anyone and then randomly wake her up in the middle of the night and want to yell and argue and stuff. Then, which brings me back to the night of the incident that happened. According to Faith, she did not think anything differently. She didn't think anything was happening that was happening because she was so used to him just waking her up in the middle of the night and wanting to argue and yell. So when he woke her up at 1 a.m., 12 a.m., she was not thinking anything of it. She was thinking, like, okay, because he had been, prior to this incident, he had been very quiet. So from August 16th to now September 21st, the night of the incident. Remember, August 16th is when she filed for divorce. The processor came out, and the processor was even taken back because they still live together. But anyways, so that from then to then, so that month of time, he was just very quiet. He would talk to her about Kaylee and Coy, but even that started to like trickle down. Like he would just stop communicating. And I think like she said she had asked him about a field trip for Kaylee and Coy, and he said that he's not paying for it. But again, that was like one of the last like communications that he had with her about them, because he just stopped talking to her after the processor came with the divorce papers. And following that, one night he woke, I don't know if it was the night of or a couple nights later, but he woke her up in the middle of the night after he was silent now, woke her up in the middle of the night and said to her, "You really effed up." And at the time, she didn't know what she was in for. She didn't know what was going to happen. You know, when these people get upset and they say things, like, sometimes they blow over, but sometimes they don't. And I know now, like, she probably is like, I should have booked it. Because the first time that she filed for divorce in 2013, she had packed her stuff, got her stuff, and moved in with her family. The kids and her moved in with her parents. But this time, I don't know, I can't speak for what she was thinking or why she didn't take the same avenues this time, but she didn't. So, yeah. Then also, Faith said that he kept, when she came out, when he brought her out of the room, so he woke her up. When he brought her out of the room, Chadney was already sitting on a couch. And she thought to herself, why is he involving my kids? Like, why is he involving him? He made Chadney do. So, Chadney and Faith are already knowing what's going on, and Gregory tells Chadney, your mother cheated on me. Your mother cheated on me. And so he ends up going back upstairs and Chadney says to his mom, and they're both bound at this point, says to his mom, did you cheat on him? And she says, no. You guys know, I would be honest with you about anything. I don't care if it embarrasses me. I don't care how it makes me look. I would be honest with you. I never cheated on him. So Kara is getting out of the bathroom. It's 1 a.m. She's getting out of the bathroom. She has just finished her shower. And Faith says, can you please just let her put some clothes on? And he says, I can do that for you. So she ends up in the basement, and he makes Chadney duct tape and tie Kara up. And I know it's just heartbreaking. Like, these are kids. Whether they're teenagers or not, they're kids. Like, I think Chadney was 19 and Kara was 17. Like, they're kids. And Kaylee and Coy. It's just so heartbreaking. Kaylee and Coy were just 4 and 5 when this happened. So these are like innocent babies. But according to Faith, Gregory shot Kara first, and then she said that it was very hard for him to shoot Chadney. Like, it was very hard for him because he just kept saying, like, why? Why are you doing this? And so he then shot them. Another sad thing is they, like a week or so before, they had celebrated Kaylee's birthday. So Kaylee just turned 4. Literally, there's still a happy birthday sign. I'm gonna try to insert the picture, but literally, there's still a happy birthday banner over the carport where the car was that the girls were in. This is so sad. Neighbors said that Chani just cut the grass yesterday, like the day before this happened. All of it is just so heartbreaking. I am so thankful for you guys. If you stuck to the end, I hope that that little bit of information that I did find out helps answer some questions about the dynamic, the relationship with Gregory and Faith. I will try to be more consistent with my uploading. Sometimes I just get so discouraged, like, I don't know if I should be doing this. I don't know if it's right. But I do feel like certain stories need to be told because, and by certain people. And I just like this story was important for me to tell because I, like I said, have lived through my own situation and I know how hard it can be to get out and just leave. I know that it's not easy and I know that it's a struggle, and I don't blame her at all for anything that has happened. I am so amazed at her will to survive, and even seeing her be so happy around her family members and smiling is amazing to me. Because I know in that situation, she probably thought she would never smile again. I have not ever been through something as traumatic as that. But even what I have been through, it's like, how do I find my happiness again? How am I going to be happy? Will I ever be happy again? And when you start to feel happy again, you feel so much better. You feel like you needed this. You it's so hard to explain, but I'm glad that she has moved on with her life and that she has found happiness. I am going to insert some pictures, and also at the end of this video you will see the domestic violence hotline number. Please, if you or anyone you know is in a situation that they need help from, please call the number. Please give them the number. If you see something, say something. Always be a listening ear. Please do not pass judgment on people in their situations. Unless someone is actively asking for your advice, please don't. And understand that saying what you won't do or what you wouldn't do is definitely passing judgment. Is definitely putting another person down. If you're saying, I wouldn't do that, I couldn't be me, that is definitely passing judgment. And you might not think so, but the reality is you are. So please don't. These situations are hard enough. Just be a person. Just be that person for your friend, your sister, your even men. Just be a listening ear and a help when you can, where you can. And I also read in Facebook that her friends really stayed on her and stayed present in her life following this situation. And one time, like, it was Chadney's birthday, and she called her friend up and she said, it's going to be hard for me. And when she got home, her friend was in her house with wine and all the things and just ready to just dedicate her night to her, because she knew that that's what her friend needed. That's what you need. You don't need someone to tell you what you shouldn't be feeling, how you should be feeling, or anything like that. So, please like and subscribe. Stay along with me for the journey. I'm going to try to be more, like I said, more on a consistent schedule with uploading. And I appreciate all of you guys. See you later.